Oh, we're live now, okay. Morning, everybody. Welcome to Place and Resources, Thursday, July the 27th. Fabulous.
How many days to Christmas?
Let's not go there. Let's not go there. Welcome. I'm Carol Jones. I represent Sturminster Newton. I'm chairing today's meeting, and to my right is the lovely Les Fry, who represents Dorchester West. Okay. Let's start. Here we go. Apologies, Lindsay.
Chairman, apologies from Councillors Coombs and Tarr.
Thank you very much. The minutes we've got two meetings to sign the minutes for, of the 6th and the 28th of June. Is everybody happy that you've read them and I can sign them? Fabulous. Done. Declarations of interest. Anybody have any? No? Chairman's update. Just a quick one. A message went round from Jackie Andrews to say that some of the meetings that were being live streamed were sometimes a little bit difficult to follow. And I have to confess I'm probably the worst at this by referring to people as Sherry or Val or whatever. So it will be Councillor Diddley-Dee and so on. So can you please ensure that you announce who you are, where you're representing, and when we get to the recommendation, to read that out so it's very clear exactly what we're voting on. That's it. Public participation, there is none. Questions from members, nothing. So we move straight to the main debate. Item 7, the Dorset and BCP Joint Local Transport Plan for Development. We've got two recommendations on that one, and it's going to be presented by Owen Clark, who's our Strategic and Policy Team Manager, with the lovely Gemma Smith by his side, ready to jump in if needed. And sorry, forgot to say, welcome to John Selgren and Jonathan Mayer, who are officers attending today's meeting as well. And Knock. And Kate, oh dear, I'm getting it all wrong. Let's just go straight to item 7. You are, we've got everyone today. We're going to rock this meeting. We've got them all. Right, over to you, Owen.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning to the committee. I'm Owen Clark, and I'm the Strategic and Policy Team Manager within Dorset Highways. I am leading within the Council to prepare the new Joint Local Transport Plan, and my report and this morning's short presentation sets out the approach to developing a new Joint Local Transport Plan 4, including an outline of the key milestones. And for the avoidance of doubt, the Joint Local Transport Plan covers the Dorset Council and BCP Council areas. The Dorset Council has a statutory duty to have a local transport plan. This plan sets out the Council's long-term goals, strategy and policies for improving transport and travel infrastructure, and it has an important role in guiding investment priorities. Our current Joint Local Transport Plan 3 was published in 2011. While the core vision and goals of this plan are still relevant today, many new challenges now face the area. Some of the most significant changes include national and global scale events, including the UK leaving the European Union and the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as locally significant changes such as local government reorganisation and the formation of 2 new unitary authorities. We're also seeing the rapid emergence of new technologies like electric vehicles and high-speed digital connectivity. And these are changing the way that people travel around and use transport services. The new LTP must also urgently respond to the challenges posed by climate change and biodiversity loss. This will require a swift and significant reduction in our carbon emissions from transport to meet the Council's target to achieve a carbon neutral Dorset by 2050. The new LTP should also seek to maximise the opportunities that the development of a new Dorset local plan presents. Aligning the local plan and the new local transport plan will mean that we have a sustainable, mutually supportive approach to development and transport, and this will be embedded across local policy. The new local transport plan must also reflect the changes in government priorities. These seek to improve connectivity and grow the economy, to also improve transport for the user, to ensure that the transport network is safe, reliable and inclusive, and reduce carbon emissions to improve air quality and improve public health and activity levels. So the government policy seeks to get more people using active travel and public transport, and also seeks to integrate all modes of transport. A key objective through all government policy is reducing carbon emissions and achieving the UK's legally binding 2050 net zero target. The local transport plan must also support the delivery of our regional and local priorities. In particular, the local transport plan is a key supporting strategy to the Dorset Council plan and will play an important part delivering the Council's 5 key priorities. The new local transport plan is being developed to comply with the new guidance to be published by government. These are now expected to be published later in the summer. Our approach is consistent with what we have been briefed to expect within the new guidance, and we are not anticipating to have to make any changes to our overall approach. A vision-led approach is to be adopted for the new local transport plan. And this follows a shift within transport planning away from the traditional models of predict and provide towards a vision-led approach to planning. This approach requires a strong and ambitious vision, and along with better alignment with spatial planning, these will be central to creating better places to live, work and visit. BCP and Dorset's next local plans are currently emerging, and this presents a really good opportunity to align the progression of these documents. This has the potential to ensure that development takes place in sustainable locations and that we avoid unnecessary car trips, and that we create the spaces where homes, workplaces and access to facilities are all within easy access of one another. The new local transport plan will be developed using a strong, well-informed evidence base. This includes a review of local transport plan best practice, a review of the current joint local transport plan 3, so that we understand what went well, what we can learn for the future, and what needs further focus in the emerging local transport plan. Carbon baselining also helps us to inform our understanding of the different sources of road transport emissions and how the new local transport plan can help to address these. An Issues and Opportunities report will summarise the initial evidence gathering work and will inform the basis of early engagement activity. Member, public and stakeholder engagement will take place throughout the development process, and a joint engagement and consultation plan will set out the method for this. We're aiming for a short and concise strategy document that is accessible and digestible to all audiences. So now looking at the governance for the development of the new local transport plan. Within the report, it is requested that the committee recommend to Cabinet that responsibility within Dorset Council for the development of the new joint local transport plan is made to the Corporate Director for Economic Growth and Infrastructure and to the portfolio holder for Highways, Travel and Environment. This could be done through the existing Highways Asset Risk and Programming Board, HARP, which meets quarterly, ensuring that decisions are effective and timely. A joint governance board will be formed with BCP Council, consisting of the portfolio holders, lead members and corporate directors from both councils. The board will meet quarterly and provide joint leadership throughout the preparation of the new joint LTP. A joint management board will also be formed and will include senior officers from both councils who will lead on the technical work and production of the new strategy and implementation plans. The officers will ensure progress is maintained, that risks are managed, and that resources are used effectively to deliver the programme. Dorset Council member webinars will facilitate wider member involvement and will be organised in collaboration with Democratic Services. The outline timetable for the programme runs to 2025, when the adoption of the new joint LTP is expected. The programme is subject to the publication of the government's new LTP guidance, which has been delayed by over 12 months so far, but we now expect this to be published later in the summer. Further delays to the publication would pose a risk to the programme. Early engagement is planned for the autumn of this year and will be high level, focused on understanding the big issues and the opportunities that will help shape the LTP development. Joint preparations for public and stakeholder engagement are underway to shape our approach to consultation and engagement activities. The core work of developing the overall strategy and our individual implementation plans will run through from autumn this year until summer of next year. Formal consultation on the draft local transport plan is planned for autumn 2024. Dorset Council currently receives an integrated transport block capital allocation of £1.9 million per annum for local transport scheme improvements. In addition to this, the Council receives £16.4 million through highways maintenance and potholes fundings to repair and protect our local road network. The local transport plan plays a critical role as a bidding document, so it's critical for making the strategic case for transport investment in the area and to enable Dorset and BCP councils to build on the success of our previous local transport plan. The area has a good case for bidding for external funding opportunities and has enjoyed recent successes securing government funding, such as the £79 million secured by Dorset Council and BCP Council to deliver sustainable travel infrastructure across South East Dorset. The costs of preparing a new local transport plan will be accommodated within existing budgets and from a capacity grant provided by government specifically for developing new LTPs. The process will involve a balance of officer time supported by our external consultants where necessary. The Climate Decision Wheel supports the Council's commitment to protecting our natural environment and tackling climate impacts. It allows policymakers to understand the wider implications on climate and natural environment. The Decision Wheel outputs show that the new LTP could have a major positive impact on three of the Council's key priorities, namely prosperity, stronger and healthier communities, and sustainable development. It also shows a mixed impact regarding becoming a more responsive, customer-focused organisation. The LTP could have a major positive impact on the Council becoming net zero in its operations by 2040, but the tool likely underestimates the potential impact on Dorset becoming net zero by 2050, recording the impacts as minor positive. Transport is Dorset's second largest source of emissions, responsible for 27% overall, and the new LTP will seek to significantly address this. A major positive impact is also considered likely on four of the Natural Environment, Climate and Ecology Strategy missions, namely transport, waste, energy, and resilience and adaptation. Positive impacts are also noted on water and natural assets. At this stage of development in the local transport plan, the carbon savings are unknown. but the long-term impact is likely to be very significant. So now there are two recommendations that were set out within the report. The first recommendation is that the committee considers this report and provides comments on the approach for the development of the new joint LTP. The reason for this recommendation is to engage the committee at an early stage of development so that your comments can support the development of the new plan. The second recommendation is that the committee recommend to Cabinet that responsibility for the development of the new joint local transport plan is delegated to the Corporate Director, Economic Growth and Infrastructure, in consultation with the portfolio holder for highways, travel and environment. And the reason for this recommendation is to seek delegation for decision-making within the Council to ensure that decisions can be made effectively and timely. That is the end of my presentation. Thank you very much, and I look forward to taking questions.
Thank you very much indeed. Councillor Lacey-Clark, would you like to come in?
Thank you so much, Chairman. Just a little note that obviously the recommendation that was read out just then does change slightly the recommendation on the paper. I just wanted to make that clear to the committee at whole that we are just adding in consultation with the relevant portfolio holders.
Thank you very much. I'm not sure who was first, Councillor Jesperson and then Councillor Rowe and Starr. Yes?
Councillor Sherry Jesperson, Hillforts and Upper Tarrants Ward. I want to start by really welcoming this report. It's timely, which is another way of saying it's about time. We got on with our local transport plan. It's an absolutely crucial document for any local authority, but particularly for an authority such as Dorset, where we have so many large rural areas where transport is so central to people's lives, and where we have, I think it would be fair to say, some ground to make up in terms of the transport we provide. So I'm really, really pleased to see it. I welcome every bit of it. I'm particularly pleased to see the shift to the vision-led planning from the predict and provide model. There are so many opportunities now, because the world is changing so fast around us. There are so many opportunities open to us now to use the transport plan to make people's lives better. And I'm really glad to see that you have, they're right, they're all in there, labelled and up front for all the world to see, because, so that vision-led model is going to enable us all to be really open to what we can do with this plan, rather than just the old-fashioned way of the plan is more of the same but better. So really thrilled to see that. I'm also pleased to see the close links with the new emerging local plan. As the chair of a planning committee, you would expect me to just say right up front, the link with the local plan and where we put development going forward is probably the bit of this transport plan that matters most to ordinary people. Because if we don't get that bit right, if we don't get where people live and our transport plan closely lined up, then the rest is just an aspiration. You know, what we can do to improve the environment, that's fabulous. But really, if we can't get it right for where people's homes actually are, then we won't be delivering as well as we could. So I'm really delighted to see, but I would urge everybody who's involved in this and the local plan to just keep that front and centre of your planning, that infrastructure is a key part of the local plan, and where the housing is going is a key part of the transport plan, and we need to get those things really, really closely lined up. There has been, I think it would be fair to say, through no fault of anybody's, a little bit of slippage over recent years, and that gap has developed between where people live and how their transport needs are met in rural areas, and we really need to use this as the opportunity to address some of that. And then I finally have a suggestion, if I could, in terms of the under the member and public stakeholder engagement and the governance. You've laid out the governance of this very helpfully. That looks absolutely fine. The Joint Governance Board, which meets quarterly, I wonder if I could just suggest that we add to this report that the meetings of the Joint Governance Board, which is kind of high level, but it's where the portfolio holders and the members are, could those meetings be conducted in the same open way that Dorset Council conducts its committees? In other words, that members, ordinary backbench members, are allowed to attend and sit in and listen to those meetings live, and that they're allowed to ask questions. There probably won't be any questions in the early days, but later on there might well be questions. I know that this will all be going through the scrutiny committee, and there will all of that, and it will be coming back to the overview board, but that's quite late in the day. And if members were allowed to listen in to the governance board, it gives us a bit of comfort that we know what's going on, and I don't think it should add to anybody's workload to conduct those meetings in that open way. So it's just a suggestion, if Overview agrees with that we send that forward to Cabinet. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that's a very good suggestion. Is that something that we could facilitate, Councillor Lacey-Clark?
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, in principle, that sounds like a very feasible idea. So we have to take it away and just fine-tune the exact structure and how that would work. But in principle, I think that's something we can definitely consider, and I can't see any big reason not to do so. Okay.
Thank you. Councillor Rowe.
Thank you. Councillor Rowe, Coal Hill and Wimborne Minster East. What I'd like to ask is what kind of messaging there will be to promote behaviour change. So I see this in lots of council documents about promoting walking, cycling and wheeling. I've not come across wheeling before, but I presume that is that... what is it? I don't really know what wheeling is. But anyway, that's not my question. But I've done my own little survey, and lots of people don't realise why short journeys are so damaging and polluting to the atmosphere. They have no idea. And with there's just hardly any buses in my ward, so they drive. But I think some education would be really beneficial, especially about the short distances, because we talk about it in the council endlessly, and we kind of know why government is pushing this, and quite rightly so. But I think there's such a lot of work to be done with the general public. What kind of communication and messaging will there be, please?
Thank you. Would you like to respond? Thank you.
So I agree with the councillor wholeheartedly about the importance of good communication, good engagement. It's critical to trying to change people's behaviours, that messaging. We need to develop a comms and engagement strategy and develop that messaging throughout the development of the programme overall, but it needs to be clear, it needs to engage the public so that they understand the issues and how that they're part of that and addressing those challenges that we face. So it's about connecting, having a discussion with the public and with stakeholders, and trying to understand then how through the local transport plan we can influence and all take our part within that change.
I think that something sort of pretty hard-hitting in the way that perhaps if you made 20 trips in 6 months of less than half a mile, this much carbon emissions, this many calories burnt if you walked, which equals perhaps 2 inches off of your waist, or just something like that that people can really relate to, I think would be pretty good. I think we've got Councillor Ray Bryan who would like to come in online now.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. Sorry I'm not there. We had a little accident at home when I bumped my head, and I don't feel inclined to drive at the moment. So apologies for not being there. I'm Councillor Ray Bryan, portfolio holder for Highways, Travel and Environment. If I can pick up on a couple of points, I'm absolutely in favour of the public being able to see what goes on at the board meetings. I think that's imperative. And just to give you an example, I sit on the Western Gateway Board along with Councillor Knocklacey Clark, and that can be viewed by any member of the public or any member of the council. So that's the sort of line I would like to see us go down. Obviously, it's subject to approval from the legal team, but I'm sure that will be forthcoming. The point that's just been raised by Councillor Rowe, I think, is extremely important. And through the climate or the environment group, we're working on a number of different things at the moment, which will highlight to the general public how they can analyse their individual carbon footprint, and this will include travel, because I think people are probably more aware of the climate change since the disaster we're seeing out in southern Europe at the moment than they ever have been. I still get people say to me, no, it's not happening, but you know, that's getting less and less. So I welcome Councillor Rowe's comments and can assure her that with the reforming of the Executive Advisory Panel on the environment, which I organised last week, these are the sort of things we're going to be discussing, and members are perfectly willing to join us at that EAP. So I just thought I'd raise those points at this stage, because it's important that people realise the council is doing a lot behind the scenes. We just haven't got it quite ready to launch, but it will be in the next few weeks. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. And we've got Councillor Starr.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Starr from Upton and Litchett. I'd very much like to support just about everything's been said so far. I very much like the idea of this coming away from predict and provide, because the fact is that most people now agree that we need to do something about climate change. It's very late, but the people are actually coming on board now. But if you ask people what they want in the way of roads, a lot of people say, yes, I'm worried about climate change, but we need a new bypass. So that you've got to have this push to put them in the right direction. And just looking up, before I spoke, about the average journey in this country apparently is 8.4 miles, according to the internet. So when you think of the number of long journeys people do, like to get to Dorchester, for example, people are doing a lot of very, very short distances, aren't they? And we really need to hit that and give them a viable alternative, and which is something we actually have to do, because we're not going to meet this binding target if we don't. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. We've got Councillor Les Fry now.
Thank you, Chair. Les Fry, Dorchester West. Page 15, report, paragraph 1.7. I note that you've been waiting for government guidance on this since the spring, and it was due out this summer. Which year can you expect that to arrive?
That's a difficult question to answer, I'm afraid. We are completely beholden to government timescales on this. We were hoping to receive the guidance this side of the parliamentary recess, but obviously we are coming towards the end of July, and we keep our fingers crossed that government will release it as soon as possible, because otherwise, as Owen said, that will delay our own timescales for production of this LTP. Yeah, so I have no answer, I'm afraid. We are waiting for government.
Thank you. So that's going to be a major hindrance to us as a council without getting that guidance to help us through. Yes, to say the least, it's not ideal and far from helpful. John Selwyn, do you want to come in there?
Councillor Lacey-Clark.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Councillor Fry. You're absolutely right. It certainly does not help us. However, we are not sitting idle waiting. We are making sure that we're doing as much data gathering, planning and communication beforehand, because actually we can understand and assess our priorities and what we want the shape of the future to be, and then fit that to the guidelines as they come out. We did our fair point of waiting for the BCP elections, waiting for the information from the government, and now we've decided actually we're going to go ahead and we're working on this now, which is why you've seen us come to yourselves before waiting another, hopefully, couple of months for the government's full guidelines.
Thank you. We've got Councillor Hope, but Councillor Ray Bryan just wants to come in. Are you all right just to hang on a moment, Councillor Hope? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. The latest information I had from London is that it will be no later than October. They're hoping to get it out in September, but it will be no later than October.
Thank you. John Selgren, did you want to come in on that? Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Just to add to what Councillor Lacey-Clark and Councillor Bryan have said on the matter, so we will crack on within what we know from government. But if that guidance is delayed, we'll do exactly as we've done on the local plan. We'll make direct representation with the sport and portfolio holder and our MPs to government to get that clarity. I'm pleased to say, Chairman, that officers of this council have very good and effective relationships with officials at the Department for Transport, and that always helps. Our intention would be, with the support of our portfolio holder and lead member, that we will crack on and make sure that our arrangements aren't delayed if it is that government needs a little bit more time to finalise its guidance.
Thank you very much. Councillor Hope.
Thank you very much, Chair. Councillor Ryan Hope, Western Ward in Weymouth. And I'm just looking at the documentation. I'm quite pleased to see phase 3 includes sort of a review of the bus service improvement plans. I'm just wondering, does that actually entail, or could that entail, a complete review of the bus services? Because we quite often talk about rural areas being insufficiently covered, but there's areas within our towns that also have no access to public transport. And looking at some of these routes that are currently going at the moment, they're not adequate for how areas have been developed and built further. And the last point on that is, could our plan include campaigning for fairer subsidies for bus services? Because the bottom line is bus services are pulling out of running these services in these rural areas and some in our town because they don't get enough funding from the government to do with the bus passes, which leaves some of our most vulnerable residents isolated because they've got no way of getting out. They're not impacting our emissions or carbon because they have no alternative method. So I just really want to hope that that piece of work will be done as part of this plan.
Thank you very much. Councillor Lacey-Clark, did you want to come in there?
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Councillor Hope. You pick up some really good points. That is something we've discussed quite a lot at length within the bus service improvement plan process. And in that, we have a bus users and stakeholders group. And I think you'd be more than welcome to come along to that and join in with that discussion, because that is the correct place. That sort of specificity doesn't actually come into this, the LTP4, but it does come into our regular BSIP meetings and the constant campaigning we have been doing for a while on that. I know Councillor Bryan's had many conversations about the concessionary passes specifically. So if you'd like to come along to that, you'd be more than welcome to. I'm sure Owen can send you an invite.
Perfect. Councillor Jesperson.
Yes, just very quickly, I say this every time when there's reference to a bus users group. Of course, all across whole swathes of North Dorset, there are no bus users because there are virtually no buses. Can we make it a bus users and a bus would like to be users if they had any buses group. Because, no, I'm making a serious point here, because the non-users don't get consulted because they're not in the game anymore, because there have been no buses there for such a long time. So could we include some non-bus users as well in this group? Thank you.
Thank you very much. We've got Councillor Bryan, who I know wants to come in, and then Councillor Lacey Clark.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. My favourite subject, BSIP. In conjunction with great help from John Selgram and the team, we're asking our MPs to ask a question in the House of Commons over why we didn't get the money that we felt we were justified in getting. We asked for 100+ million, got nothing. We've just been awarded a few 100,000, which is not anywhere near what we need. If people don't know just how passionate I am over the BSIP programme and how disappointed I am, they're not listening to me. But I can tell you now, the team that's sitting in front of you, Chairman, worked very, very hard to put in a great proposal. And I'm pleased that Nock is leading on this for me, because we're starting to get the message across that as to what we need. Councillor Jespin is absolutely right. The only time I see a bus go past is when I'm driving over to Dorchester or Weymouth, and it's not acceptable. And we will keep working to bring a better bus service into Dorset.
Thank you very much. Now, I'll come in after you then, Les. Councillor Fry.
Thank you, Chair. We recently priced up going up to London for a weekend. It was actually cheaper to drive up there than to use the train. The trains are unreliable, not dependable. We do need to look at that. And it's almost cheaper to fly somewhere than it is to use the train somewhere. So we should be pushing for some changes in the whole infrastructure. We've heard about poor bus services. There are no buses. So you can't have a poor one if you haven't got buses there. It's all crazy. So hopefully through this, we will see some progress in making transport easier, simpler and cheaper, but somehow I doubt it.
We have to have hope. And I don't just mean Ryan there. Okay, I've got a few little points here. Whilst we're working with BCP, do we automatically map the assets that we have to access outside of the area? I'm talking specifically about places like Yeovil Hospital, the college and so on. Are they mapped? They're mapped and included as well? Because I know we've got problems, which some are aware of, in that we just have a ridiculous 2-minute delay or problem whereby the bus that comes through the villages from Blandford arrives 2 minutes after the bus for the Yeovil College leaves. And we seem to be having problems dealing with that 2 minutes. It seems to be unsolvable, and now it's gone back to Yeovil College. So presumably we bring the colleges in to do that as well. That's good, lovely. Now also, okay, I've got nodding heads. Les told me I've got nodding heads, that's fine. The issue that I wanted to bring up is that I think that we really have to work closer with planning and with housing, because the amount of people that don't have access to a car or a van is quite astonishing, really. Whilst we'll say it's on average of 15% across Dorset, when we look at those in social housing, in Dorset, it's just under 34% of people in social housing do not have access to transport at all. Now, if you compare, like, say, my own area, it's a 20-25 mile round trip to the nearest supermarket with no buses. And I see again and again the number of perhaps single mums at home with children, no access to transport, they can't get out easily, access to services is just diabolical. And I think we've got to really look closely with planning and housing and actually work with them. Where are our affordable housing estates, blocks, whatever, going? And how are those people? They have to be able to access something that will take them into the towns for at least supermarkets and hospitals. Also, the a lot of the community car schemes, I think, closed and just ran out of volunteers during COVID. And if we do have areas where we have, well, just nothing happening, we have to identify those. And can we do something that will encourage or promote some sort of schemes to help people at least get to essential services such as medical appointments and doctors and so on and so forth. And now I'm going on, I've got another one thing. On your little wheel, where you've got mixed impact, actually a responsive and customer focused, that could be a major positive. I think we have to aim to turn that into a major positive impact, that we are responsive and we are, you know, we are focusing on what our customers, that is our residents, want, and they do want a decent service where they can get on a bus and they don't have to wait a week till Monday to get back again. I think that. I also wanted to just say that I think our needs are really quite different to BCP. I mean, for example, it's very unlikely they'll have to go over to Yeovil Hospital or whatever. They've got their hospitals right bang smack and centre in Bournemouth and Poole. And it just seems to me that our problem here is that we're so rural, and that means it's a lot more expensive for us. We have areas that are just completely cut off. So I'll stop rambling now, and I don't know if anybody wants to come in on that. Thank you. Somebody. Kate.
Thank you. Yeah, we absolutely acknowledge that we, as a rural area, do have all of those challenges, and members will be fully consulted through the governance setup that we have, so you can bring that local knowledge to us. The point about BCP and Dorset and those differences will be fully taken up through the fact that we will have two separate implementation plans. We'll have one broad overarching LTP strategy for both areas, and then we'll have a BCP implementation plan and a Dorset implementation plan where those different challenges can be explored and solutions put forward. The point about local plan and the LTP, absolutely, that they do need fully integrating, and we're already exploring with our planning colleagues ways in which we can do joint consultation and make sure that the transport strategy that comes from the LTP is included within the local plan.
No, right. Thank you. Councillor Jesperson.
Yes, but just one last point, if I may. Councillor Sherry Jesperson, Hillforts and Upper Tarrant. Can I just make sure that we also, include in here somewhere, work on safe transport for women and girls, particularly in the nighttime economy? I wouldn't expect to see it referenced here, but could we make sure that we make that central to any transport plan that we're doing for the future, not an afterthought added on at the end, because we now know much more about, because people have finally started asking women and girls about their lives, so we now know much more about what would constitute safe transport and make the lives of women and girls easier. So can we make sure that that's in there as a thread going all the way through this? It applies obviously much more to urban areas, but it also is an issue in the rural areas as well. So I just a marker really to say, can we not leave that as an afterthought, but put it as a thread throughout? Thank you.
Thank you. Now, would anybody else like to come in? I'm very worried because Councillor Rawford hasn't spoken yet, and he normally likes to pop in with something. Oh, there he is. He's coming in now. Thank you.
Well, on request, I'll say something. I am Tony Alford, and I represent the Egerton ward. And I think that there are probably three things that come to mind in reading this paper, which I fully support. I think it's a project that we need to get on with. But the first point I'd like to make is talking about data. And we say enough about LTP3, which suggests that this is evidence-based decision-making, collecting a lot of data, manipulating it, forward forecasts, and that leads to your policy. So I can understand that. We're going to be suggesting a different approach with LTP4, which is all about vision. Now, I think that's absolutely fine, no problem at all. But it also is said that there'll be a lot of data collection for that sort of approach. Now, I'm not immediately convinced that there is that need, and because the approach is different. But if I've understood that correctly, I welcome confirmation. And how the data collection for LTP4 will vary from LTP3. One of the things that has been mentioned, and I fully agree with this, is consistency with other policy. So if you think about our climate change policy for transport, is there anything to stop us from just lifting and reusing that text in that policy again? So perhaps that would be helpful. And then finally, the process of preparing the strategy. I wonder, first of all, whether there will be a SWOT analysis of the existing situation or the outcome under LTP3. SWOT analysis stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And the whole purpose of the exercise is to use that analysis in preparing clear objectives for your new policy that's clearly related to need, as you've discovered through this SWOT analysis process. So those are my three general comments. I will end now.
Thank you very much. Would you like to make a response, Owen?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Orford. Yeah, so the vision-led approach doesn't mean that we're any less using data and evidence to inform that. I think it's even more critical within that approach that we have a good understanding of place, of the people that live within the area and the activities that they undertake. So that's very much the early phase of development that we've been undertaking so far, is to collect that data, to understand that evidence, what it tells us about the area at the moment and how those challenges might change going forward. So it's very much that the vision, the objectives will be based on that data and information, and that will be published in due course.
Thank you very much. Councillor Fry?
Thank you, Chair. Les Fry, Dorset West. You've got a very good and wide list of an example of the engagement list there. What I don't see on that list, and it's quite extensive, is the third sector, things like Age UK and youth centres, youth clubs with young people. You've got their representatives, but not the youth centres to tell where they're going to be the road users of the future. But otherwise, it's a very extensive list. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, we'll review that list and develop it accordingly.
Right, thank you. If everybody is happy, then I think we will just vote on the recommendations. Sorry. Okay. Can I have a proposer? And well, shall I read out these for the sake of all those watching at home? Right, we are recommending that the committee considers this report and provides comments on the approach for the development of the new joint LTP4, and that secondly, the committee recommends to Cabinet that responsibility for the development of the new joint LTP4 is delegated to the Corporate Director of Economic Growth and Infrastructure and the portfolio holder for Highways, Travel and Environment. And we also want to include that the governing board should be an open meeting that others can join in on and that we can watch and be part of. That's fine. Are you happy to propose that? Lovely, Councillor Pothecary, you're seconding. Shh, we're home and dry. Everybody agreed or not agreed? Please show. Unanimous. Thank you, that's unanimous. That item is now closed. We move on. We've got our item 8 is our overview committee work programme. I believe that John and Aidan are still working on, from the last one, that will come back to us. So It's looking a little bit lean at the moment. We don't meet again until October, and Lindsay's off, our Democratic Services Officer, is off for August. So I'm hoping that things may just come through that we'll be able to get our teeth into for the October meeting. But does anybody want to say anything on the forward plan? No? Okay, and we've got included for information the Cabinet forward plan. Did anybody want to bring anything up through there? No? Lovely. Urgent items, there are none. Exempt business, none. This meeting is over at 10:50. Thank you so much.